recording right now. So in case we have any wonderful nuggets, we'll just be able to roll it on in. But
All right.
first off, thanks for taking the time to do this, man. Like
The stars aligned, man. It's I don't have a day off too often, so I try to get everything in on a day.
there you go. There's a few jokes to be made right there, but I'll be an adult about this. I mean, you gotta remember, like, this is, you do something that I mean, I guess I'm just jumping right into it. You do something that not a lot of guys get to do, and you're at the top echelon, if you will, of your industry. And I guess we'll stop beating around the bush, if you will, and say it. You are a professional male pornography performer or actor. What is the most PC way to say it? And do you want me to say it the most PC way possible?
Oh, I don't care. Adult performer, I guess you could call it that.
Adult performer. All right. Well, the show is This Just In. I'm Justin. It's the show. It sounds like a news show, but really isn't at all. It's really just me sitting down talking with people from different walks of life and talking about how they got to from where they were to where they are now. And so I'd been following you, William, for a while because of one Gary Tonin was sharing some of your stuff out.
He's a good dude. I like Gary.
For those that don't know, Gary Tonin is very big in the jiu-jitsu world, and I believe is a fighter for Bellator, or was a fighter for Bellator.
If he can find anybody to fight him.
He's a scary dude, that's for sure. And you know, the people that are listening to this know a little bit about fights. That's where I kind of cut my teeth on all my recording before, you know, talking to male porn stars.
Well, after COVID's not a big thing, I want to do a fight with him for charity. So
there you go. Fight to win. You guys hear that? Seth, I think Seth is still the one running Fight to Win.
I got a little background in the jiu-jitsu community.
But yeah, so that's how I first found you. And I started following you without any idea of what your current profession was. And I started recognizing some of the lovely females that you're posting photos with. And I was like, oh, is this jiu-jitsu guy going on to porn sets? And then it turned out, no, this guy works on porn sets. And I'm going to go ahead and give you an introduction real fast. So we have Will Pounder, who is the 2020 AVN Best Male Newcomer and the 2021 AVN Best VR Scene. And he is a Marine vet and has been doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu for, was it 12 years?
Started back in 2008.
Yeah. Oh, so you're coming up on year 13 pretty soon here.
Pretty much. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get into all the fun stuff a little later, but let's go ahead and start way back. Let's go ahead and start. I'm guessing you went into the Corps straight out of high school.
No, out of high school, I was a troublemaker. And then I had enough, I knew enough about myself that I was like, I need some discipline and I'm not going to get it on my own. Like I was too smart for like my own good. Like, for example, I was told, when you turn like 16, you're like, I'm gonna go get a car, right? You hit up your parents, you're like, I'm gonna go get a car. And so I did that. I hit up my dad and I was like, yeah, I want a car. He says, well, go get a job. I was like, all right. So I went in, I got a job. The only place hiring was flipping burgers. So I flipped burgers for about a month. And I got my paychecks. And I was like, man, I'm never going to buy a car at this rate. Like, it's just not going to happen. And the only thing I was good at was basketball. And so I was like, all right, well, what can I do with that? So I spent my whole paycheck printing out flyers for a 1-on-1, a 3-on-3, and a 5-on-5 basketball tournament, $5 per person per event. And then I got me and my two buddies, and we put them out at all the rec centers, all the high schools, all the college campuses where I grew up.
Where is this at, like geographically?
Up in Idaho.
Up in Idaho. All right.
Middle of nowhere. And but there was they had this like McDermott Field. They had these basketball courts. They're not there anymore, but they had 2 courts. And so I set up this big old tournament right there. Well, the first week we did that, got a really big turnout. The second week we did that, I had a vendor pay me $250 The third week I had a vendor set up shop on the opposite side, paid me $400. And then the fourth week I got shut down by the city because I didn't have a business. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have a city permit, and I was 16 years old. But they let me keep the money, and I turned around and bought a car in cash. And that was my first, that's how I got my first car.
So you had like that entrepreneurial spirit early on, but you were still a troublemaker.
Yeah. And so I ended up, my best friend out of high school, he goes to the Marine Corps boot camp, and I get a letter from him in the mail, and the whole letter is like, this sucks. Whatever you fucking do, don't join the Marine Corps. This is fucking hell. Like, whatever you do, do not join the Marines. And I was like, well, shit.
That sounds like fun.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go join the military because like I don't see a way to get out of this economic black hole in that area. And so I go to the Armed Forces recruiter, and they had I was like, I'm gonna go join the Air Force. I scored really high on the SATs and the ASVAB and all that, but the recruiter was never there. And like I went back like 3 or 4 different times. It was like a 2-week period, and the recruiter there was never there. And the last time I went, there was the cadence where it was like 1, 2, 3, and a bunch of people yelled 1, 1, 2, 3, do it. And I was like, what is that? And so I went in there, I looked in the window, and there was a bunch of kids working out, and I was like, well, that's something I get behind. Well, that was the Marine Corps recruiter. And so I ended up signing out. They told me I was shipping out in 3 months. 2 weeks later, I was gone to boot camp. So it's pretty. I actually just did my first public speaking event at a pulley function.
Okay.
I went and spit some motivation to a bunch of kids about to join the military.
There you go. And so at what age exactly were you when you decided to sign up?
Gosh, I see. 20. I was 20. I believe I was 20. Yeah.
Okay. And so how much into your military, career or time would you say that you found the beautiful art of jiu-jitsu?
Ooh, well, in the Marines, you've got McMap, which is ground fighting. So that got me involved into it. And I was big into bodybuilding. So I got up to about 250 pounds, around 6-7% body fat.
Damn.
I was a wall. I was a brick wall. I could lift heavy things, not very fast, but I could lift heavy things. And when I got to the fleet, I'd say I was 21. So I had a year and a half of school. I was 21. I hit the fleet, and my gym partner, his name was Guthrow, and he looked like he belonged on the cover of Muscle magazine. But every day he would come up to me and he's like, "Do my arms look any bigger?" And I was like, "I don't know, dude. They're the size of my head." And so I was like, that's gonna be me in 5 years, and that scared the shit out of me. So I was like, all right, I'm not doing this no more. I quit bodybuilding, and then I was like, well, I want to use this muscle for something. So I looked up some jiu-jitsu schools, and then I went and did jiu-jitsu. I told my shop, I was like, I'm gonna go fight for the Marine Corps. They literally grabbed everybody in the shop in front of me, had me say what I told them. So I told them, I was like, I'm gonna go fight for the Marine Corps in martial arts. They all laughed at me. They literally just laughed. And so every day at 4:30, when I got done at work, I would drive over to Undisputed. I would go train with Barrett Yoshida, and then then right around like 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'd head back to the barracks. And what happened is I was getting my ass kicked for like 6 fucking months. I was getting my ass kicked, but it was like to the point where I was like, he was only teaching 1 series a week, and I have almost a near photographic memory. And so I was learning it really quick. So I was like picking up words like, what is an onomplata? What is, what are all these? I would hear these words, a kimura, and so I would go onto YouTube. And then I had a 2-hour lunch in the Marines. And so what I was doing is I was watching videos, and then I would take my roommate over to the gym on base. And they had this little 4x8 square foot mat. And I was just practicing the stuff off of that I watched on from YouTube. And so that little 4x8 square foot mat that's inside this cardio room that's kind of tucked away out of nowhere in the gym, filled up full of Marines wanting to learn jiu-jitsu. Like we had over 16 Marines, and it was packed. And then there was a line out the door, and it was like that for 2 weeks because I was doing it every day because I got tired of getting my ass kicked.
So this is after that first 6 months.
No, this is like month 2.
Oh, month 2. Okay.
Yeah, like month month and a half, month two. Like the whole first month, I was getting my butt kicked. I hate losing. Like I'm really competitive. And it's so when I fought Barrett, I was 250 pounds, and I was just like, at one point in the fight, I literally curled him with an arm. Like he was up here on my arm, and I picked him up on the arm and threw him off, and they just would not stop. He just kept going. And like we fought for like 20, 30 minutes. It felt like, I don't know how long it was, but it felt like forever until I was completely exhausted and they choked the living shit out of me. And so I was like fighting with all the other guys in the guys in the class. They were just kicking my butt because they used technique and I didn't know it. Mm-hmm. And so I was constantly practicing and bringing my roommate to practice with. Well, MCS saw that this was like a high demand activity. So they ended up repurposing a old racquetball court in another building. And because what was happening is there were so many Marines piling up to watch us on that little 4x8 square foot mat that was impeding with the flow of traffic. So they gave us this building that was like way out of the way, but it was good enough for us. And this was about 3-4 months. We filled it up. We had over 60 Marines every day showing up to go learn jiu-jitsu. And then right around 6 months, I almost quit jiu-jitsu. I went into the gym, and this is at the point where I was like, I sucked, and I was average. I was average in the class. Like I wasn't the top dog, but I wasn't getting my ass kicked. I was like, I could survive. And I was like, oh, this is fine. I can do this. I walk in, I go to practice. It was a live roll day, and I got submitted 34 times with different variations of a triangle. And this is not from one person. This is from every motherfucker in the class. Like ones that were bigger than me, ones that were smaller, ones that I was kicking their butts like the last week. And it was just like, it completely crushed my spirit. And I was like, I don't know if jiu-jitsu's for me. So I quit. I took like 2 weeks off. I was like, I don't know if it's me, but then the itch came back. I was like, I'm gonna give this another shot. But when I took that time off, that 6 months of like just constantly intaking a high volume of information, because it was regimented. It was literally 2 hours of watching YouTube, 4 hours of training, 1 series a week, and like watching video. It was just soaking up as much knowledge as I could, that it took that time off for it to all just kind of process. And then it clicked. And so when I went back, I smashed everybody in the class. And then I stalemated my teacher. And I was like,
okay.
It just made sense. And so this was right around month 6 into the sport. And then so the class where I was at was we had over 60 plus Marines and a line out the door, and it was getting too big for the racquetball court. And at the same time, there was a big tournament in San Diego, a double gold medal at the tournament, and the All Marine submission grappling team was there. And I choked out everybody on the All Marine grappling team that was in the open weight and my weight class. And so they cut me PTAD orders. So that basically they're saying, hey, we want you to come represent the Marine Corps and do jiu-jitsu. And
so what they had laughed at you previously about, now they're like, hey, come on. All right.
It gets better. So I ended up teaming up with a warrant officer, because I was a Lance Corporal. I was a nobody. Like I was just low on the totem pole. And I started this huge program by accident. So one of the guys I trained with, here's one of my students, a warrant officer. He helped get us 10,000 square foot mat next to the physical therapy department by the 7-day in Miramar. And so that's where we moved into there. Well, my students were also my upper chain of command, but I didn't know that. And they didn't know that either. Because nobody wore anything, like, no, you don't wear your uniform.
Yeah.
When you come, you're coming in shorts and a shirt. And there's these 2 older gents that were that were talking while I was teaching. And mind you, I had over 100 Marines in my classes. Like my classes were huge. We had 10,000 square foot mat, over 100 Marines on any given day when I was teaching. And I had these 2 gents that were talking while I was teaching. Well, that happened to me once when I was talking and Barrett was teaching, and he told me to shut the fuck up and give him 20 burpees. So that's the only thing I knew. That was my response. So having these 2 older gents that are, clearly been in the military for a long time, and they're talking. So I told them to shut the fuck up and give me 20 burpees. Well, he goes to respond and says, "Do you know who I am?" And I looked at him and says, "I don't give a fuck who you are. Give me 20 burpees or there's the door." And I went back to teaching my class. After the class, he comes
yeah.
up to me and says, "I'm Lieutenant Colonel da 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 da. That was the ballsiest thing anyone's ever told me," and then shook my hand. And I was like, all right. I didn't know any better. I was like, what? I'm a Lance Corporal. Like, you know, I started this program out of nowhere by dumb luck of just people wanting to learn how to choke people. And it just kind of blew into this huge thing where we had the base ended up getting us this big digital sign. It was like a whole ordeal. I was bringing in UFC fighters into like the MCS events.
Okay.
Like it was a big deal. And so then I made it. So what happened is my initial shop, they denied it. They said, no, we need you. Well, just so happened that my upper chain of command, they were my students. And I think that Lieutenant Colonel was actually my boss's 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 boss. And so they ended up approving it. So I went. So I went to the All Marine Submission Grappling Team. And 4 months after that, I had a rule, whereas if I gold medaled in a large tournament, I would go to the next division. So I started out a novice. I won novice. The next weekend, I won beginner. The next weekend, I won intermediate. The next weekend, I won advanced. And then I was asked, I think his name was Brian Simmons. I don't remember, Grappler's Quest owner. And then I got put into the pro divisions. So in 10 and a half months from the day I started jiu-jitsu, is when I entered into the pro divisions and in the advanced pro divisions. And then I was fighting. And do you know who Joao Assis is?
I don't.
He's won a bunch of he's phenomenal grappler, won a bunch of tournaments, won lots of money from the tournaments. But I used to watch him on YouTube. And it was like the most surreal moment because like I just got done submitting this guy. And for a whole year I submitted everybody with a crucifix for shits and kicks. and actually, I don't know if you've seen it, but I posted one of my flying crucifixes from an MMA fight back in like 2011 or something.
Oh no, I haven't seen that
Yeah,
one.
on my
Let's put it
Instagram.
up.
And so I look up there and then I'm looking at Joao Assist standing across the mat from me, and like my jaw dropped, and I was like, I couldn't help it. I had to go up to him and I told him I was like my tail was tucked between my legs. I kind of had my head down. I was like, "Hey man, it's a real honor to fight you. Just so you know, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for less than a year, and I watched all your YouTube videos."
So you kind of went about it kind of like the John Jones way. Like you kind of learned from all those videos. Now, you said that you were doing powerlifting and bodybuilding, and you said that you didn't want to go that route anymore. What made you go towards jiu-jitsu? Like what was your first experience with jiu-jitsu before all of that made you want to like learn more about it?
Well, I didn't want to get hit in the face, so I figured I would do jiu-jitsu.
There you go. There you go.
And then that only kind of postponed that for a while, but yeah.
For sure. All right, go ahead. What else did you hit up in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world of the Marines?
Oh man, so we won literally almost every tournament. When the Marine team showed up, I ended up becoming the head coach not too long after being on the Marine team, and that was a trip. That was the trip. So what happened is I would get these guys for 6 months, and within 2 weeks they had to go do their first tournament. And my problem is when I fight most students from other schools, if I know who the instructor is, 9 times out of 10 I know how they fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that doesn't work. And so what I would do is with my students is in 2 weeks they had to go fight, and they had to represent the Marine Corps. And so what I would do is I would grapple with them, and some people have a natural tendencies. Some people naturally tend to go for head control. Some people naturally tend to go for more wrestling maneuvers, maybe from prior history.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have a natch for like kind of locking on into almost like underhooks, almost as if they're trying to isolate an arm. So you play it off of natural tendencies. So what I do is I would roll around with my student for half an hour straight. Like we just free roll. I'd go really light. I just want to see how they moved. And that would let me know how they processed information. And then I would develop a jiu-jitsu training program for them. For example, one of the guys, he knew, and this is actually a really funny story. He knew a guard pass. Uh, he knew how to get to side control, to knee on belly, to the underhook, set up the Kimura, and then finish the Kimura. So he only knew 1, 2, 3, and a finish. He knew 3 moves and a finish.
He had 3 steps to a finish.
3 steps to that's all he knew. And then for 2 weeks, he drilled those 3 steps and that move. And if he got into unfamiliar territory, he was to like scramble as best he could to reset. Literally he wouldn't even like go past the guard. He would put the guy back in a guard so he could pass his guard again, because he had to start from step 1, step 2, step 3, and finish. At one point, he was already past the guard. Like, he was in half guard. He could have just slid right under, and he's like, nope, puts his leg back, lets the guy close guard again. So I'm like, we'll work on that. But
you got to start somewhere.
But the kicker of it is, so we fought sometimes 1 or 2 tournaments a weekend, and we were fighting every single weekend. And the rule was, if you gold medaled, you go to the next division. So he fought on Friday. He gold medaled. So now he fought in beginner. In beginner, he won beginner. So now his next tournament was intermediate. So we got a guy that's been doing jiu-jitsu for about 3 weeks now. His first week, he beat a novice and beginner. And his third week, he's in intermediate. 3 weeks in jiu-jitsu. So we're going out there. He's getting ready to go fight. This guy comes in. He becomes friends with. He was talking with one of the competitors, and they're all talking. He's like, "Well, how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu?" And he's like, "About 2 years." And he's like, "Oh man, I'm a little nervous. It's my 3rd week."
Oh shit!
So the guy's like, "Oh shoot!" And he's like, "Well, what do you know?" He's like, "Well, I know Kimuras." So
but only if I start at this spot.
Well,
right?
no, it gets better. So then this guy's trying to teach him different Kimura setups before he goes out to his fight. And so he's like, okay, so they became friends. I'm sitting here watching this happen. Like, I was like, oh, this is good. This is funny. So he goes and fights. Guard, pass, knee on belly, underhook, Kimura, step over, boom, finish. Next round. Does the exact same thing. Little scramble, reset, back into guard. Pass the log, knee in the log, pass, knee on belly, boom. And now he's fighting the guy in the finals who's trying to help him, teach him new Kimura setups. And this was the best part, because then he gets in there and the guy takes him down. So he pushes his head, he scrambles out, gets back up. The guy's on his back, gets him in the guard, and now he's like, this is my game. Right there. Finishes him in a Kimura. He only knew 3 moves, so he won an intermediate tournament. It's 3rd weekend.
Oh shit!
But all of my students did that, like every single one of them. If they didn't have any, I had one student that he trained before he came and never learned. He never got better. The new guys within 2 weeks was completely destroying them because he brought in past bad training habits. And I had almost the exact same story, but one guy, his thing was he liked head control. So his whole thing was centered around a 5-finger choke that would turn into a guillotine. So he would hold their head like a football, and if you didn't respect that, he would end you just with like the hook right there, and it's over, because he just controlled his hand and it's over. If you respected it and then you brought your hands up and you grabbed it, but you didn't mind his legs, he would grab your hands, use your own hands to choke you out with, and then like they only knew like almost every single guy for their first month only knew one guard pass, one transition. Like that was it.
There's nothing more demoralizing than being choked out with your own limbs. I'm speaking from experience. Oh man. All right, so let's go down the road a little bit. So you're doing this for, I'm gonna guess, about 6 years. What happens to your back at some point?
Oh, well, so it was
Are you
coming
still
up time.
in the core at this time?
I'm in the core right now, and I was facing the point of, am I going to re-enlist or am I going to get out? What happened is Team Black House, the Noguera brothers, Junior DeSantos, Silva, they came in to do a seminar on base, on the base. And so then they brought, we brought my competition guys out because we thought this was just a showboat thing. They're going to show us their moves. And, you know, for all the Marines and families that are coming out there to watch at this big event. Well, these motherfuckers actually started trying to choke us all out. So my students come and ask me, they're like, hey, coach, they're actually trying to choke us out. Can we fight back? So I told him, I was like, well, I mean, if they're going to try to choke you out, then fuck it, choke them back, you know, like go for it. And so went out there, and I have a very elusive game. If you know Barrett, my game emulates his, but kind of very different. But I run a crucifix game, and it's a bait game. If you touch a leg, or if you go into a deep half guard, or if there's a hand on the mat, or if you give me head control, you're going to end up in a crucifix. Mm-hmm. And so that's what happened. I started catching everybody in crucifixes. So then they invited me over to their pro practice, and then I caught everybody there in crucifixes. And so I was like, so I got invited on the team to go train. So I made the decision I was going to go compete and pursue a career of martial arts. So that's what led me to get out of the military. While I was in the military, I was getting between 4 and 8 hours of mat time a day and competing on the weekends. So what happened is when I was in MCT in the final hike, I broke my L5 and it's fractured. I got an MRI done. It's still fucked up. And because I was always working out, I was always stayed limber, I was always warmed up, it never actually caused a problem. And when I got out, those guys only trained once, rarely twice a day. And I literally, my training time got cut in half, and then my back started hurting. So it was about a month and a half when I got out. I went to the VA because I was like, yo, my back's kind of hurting. I told him, I was like, it doesn't feel muscular, but they were like so insistent on giving me pain or muscle relaxers. And I didn't know any better then. So I was like, all right, well, because in the Marines, when they give you stuff, you kind of have to take it. Like, you don't, there's not many options as far as not taking shit when they give it to you, you know?
Not a lot of saying no.
Yeah. So I took those. And by the time I made it to the exit of the hospital, I couldn't move my legs. And turns out my spine turned into a 2, and where it was fractured was hitting a nerve, cutting off the feeling to my legs. So I couldn't walk. So I was like, all right, well, I guess that's the end of the fight career. Like literally overnight. I was like, my whole mindset was like, well, this sucks. So at least I had the GI Bill. So I went to school and got a degree in business and project management. And that was like, as far as I was concerned, the last time I did jiu-jitsu until about 10 years later when I fought Lachlan Giles on UFC Fight Pass almost as a publicity stunt and caught him in a crucifix and almost put him to sleep. and the running joke is that's actually how I became friends with Craig Jones and Gary. Okay. The running joke was like, he said he was gonna, because he turned purple, like he was about 1 second to go into sleep. Mm-hmm. And he ended up catching me in a heel hook. But he told everybody that if I was anybody else, if I was Edwin or if I was Craig or anybody else, he says he would have tapped. But he said he refused to tap to a porn star. So that was the running joke.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably up there with the demoralizingness of getting choked out with your own limbs.
Well, my job's very athletic. Like it's not like I'm sitting at a desk the whole day, you know?
I can comfortably say I could not do your job.
99% of men can't do the job.
Well, let's go ahead and dive into that. We've covered the Marines, we've covered jiu-jitsu. Now let's get into your current profession, male porn star, male adult performer. How does this come about? How does, like, at what point does this transition, like, you know, do you see the opportunity? What leads you to do it? And then what kind of reservations did you hold about doing it? Because I'm sure that there's a moment that you thought, should I do this? Can I do this? So walk me through all of that.
Okay, well, before we even got to that point, never once did I say the words come out of my mouth, say, I want to be a porn star. I never said that. I have never said that. What actually happened is my back was broke, couldn't walk for 2 years. They said I couldn't, they said I most likely won't be able to really regain full control. They wanted to fuse my back. I worked with the body worker who told me not to do that. So 2 years, I got 255 pounds of fat, and I realized I wasn't happy. And then I lost 55 pounds in 3 months. I battled with type 2 bipolar because my diet went to shit. And then that came
Mhm.
up even worse. And I was in mania and hypomania for a year or 9 to 11 months a year. And I'd only have about 1 week of functioning memory. And so, like, the
Wow.
first year that happened, it's like I woke up and it felt like it kind of felt like I just like you just opened up a video game and like your character loaded, and I was like, you're level 29, you're living here, you have X amount in your bank account, and you look at your phone and you don't recognize any of the pictures, so you're like, all right, so this is what happened the last like 11 months. That's kind of what it
Wow.
felt like. So I started taking this nootropic called Q96 from Q Sciences, and then I started feeling emotions. Well, I was like, well, this is fucking weird. So I quit that shit because that was weird, and went back into hypomania from bipolar. So another year went by. A knee surgery knocked me out of it, and I checked myself into the VA mental health ward because I was like, "Yo, this is 2 years of memory gone. Like, what the fuck is going on right now?" And they never followed up with me. Go figure. It's the fucking VA.
VA for you.
And so then I recycled. The third year it hit, I was like, I can't fucking live like this. Like, I was at my wits fucking end, you know, like there's 3 years I don't remember anything. Like I can 10% of the photos from the year I can remember. And so I was like, all right. So I got like freaking 6 or 7 bottles of that Q96. I started taking it. And then I was like, all right, these are emotions. Weirdest fucking feeling ever, from living your life not feeling them than to feel them. It was really fucking weird. And then, but I processed out all the emotions. I figured out what they were there for. And then I dove into the internet of research of other people that had bipolar and tried to figure out what the fuck it was, because Western medicine has their heads shoved up fucking pharmaceutical ass because they just want to pump you full of fucking synthetics. And
Yeah.
that shit doesn't fucking work. So I dove into fucking research because I was like, I got to figure this shit out. And I found like some common denominators. Like our parents were taught not to eat fat. Their parents were taught not to eat fat. You've seen the trend.
Yeah.
The number one thing across the board of diets in the blogs and the comments of blogs regarding BP was a high healthy fat diet seemed to help these people out a lot. And I was like, okay, interesting. So then I started, you look micro to macro, you follow dietary trends with everyone's parents not telling them to eat fats. No wonder you have a whole generation with mental illness out the wazoo, because the deficiency of omega-3s has a direct correlation to the emotional campus. And then as of last year, they officially discovered through MRIs that narcissists, or narcissism, that behavior, is a deficiency of it's a deficiency of healthy fats or brain injury to the brainstem, which is reversible by diet. So what I did is I cut out all caffeine, all sugar, and tripled the dosage of high quality fish oils. Because if you go get fish oils and you research what's a good quality, you realize there's a lot of shit on the market. And like, I swear it's like the biggest fucking scam ever. So you have to find like high quality fish oil.
Real quick, you said that you took out caffeine. What was the reasoning behind that?
So too much caffeine is a vasoconstrictor, and it actually adversely affects the brain. Same thing with sugar. So
Okay.
like you can get by with like 1 cup of coffee, but I'm not like, during that time period, I wasn't concerned. Like my main focus wasn't, oh, I need energy of the day. My main focus was, I need to fix my fucking brain so I can actually have a life. Like I
Yeah.
could get, so I set everything else aside as like, this is my last resort. Because one of the things is I didn't have my memory, and emotions would cause, like, your brain's like a computer. So if you're like programming a computer to count to 10, but you don't tell it when to stop, it'll continue counting until it blue screens to death.
Yeah.
And so that's why the angry bipolar is the most recognizable bipolar, because when they feel a little bit of anger or frustration, their brain doesn't tell them how much to feel. So it just goes over the top. And I found that I spent a whole year helping people fix themselves through diet and nutrition of BP, had 100% success rate. And it's not just the angry, it's any emotion. I personally was a happy bipolar. So if I felt happy or joy, it was over the top, and I was easily manipulated by pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how things correlated and it ended up. So the gist of it is I was taking I was doing the healthy diet, and I was doing that, and I would cut everything, and I would see how long I could go until symptoms came back. And it was usually about a week and a half to 2.5 weeks where stuff would come back. Well, I've been a big fan of physics since I was a little kid. Like I've always liked watching the physics conference, and that's just my thing. Like I like reality. I like ancient Sumeria, like ancient Egypt, all that kind of stuff always fascinated me, and especially theoretical physics. And there was this doctor that spoke at a physics conference, and that like kind of stuck with me. And he talked about maintenance levels and treatments levels. And you have like the energetic body that also affects the biological body, but the Western medicine doesn't recognize the energetic body, even though they go hand in hand, because a lot of the pharmaceuticals actually suppress the energetic body, where it's why one pill leads into taking more pills, because multiple symptoms of things.
Yeah.
And so the thing that he said that really kind of stuck with me was maintenance levels and treatments levels. So what I did, instead of taking the daily dosage of the high quality omega-3s and stuff, I tripled the dosage, and I did that for 3 months. And after that, I cut everything cold turkey, and I waited and I waited and I waited. Nothing came back. 6 months later, nothing came back. To this day, nothing's came back. And at that point, I started talking to I talked to other family members that like distant cousins and stuff. And I was explaining what relationships felt like before, and relationships and friendships felt like after I got emotions. Or before, it felt like it was like a task. It's like, if the relationship's in trouble, then it's like everything else focuses on this to fix it. Second it's fixed, it's like, okay, we're good. Everything else, focusing on that, forget about this. That's literally how it was. It felt like it was a thing that needed to be done, but it was because all the emotions were learned. It was a learned process. It wasn't it wasn't
innate.
Yeah. And the thing was, is like, you would feel emotions in the moment, but the way the BP was worked, because it's a miscommunication of the emotional campus due to the degradation of that part of the brain. When you experience emotions, the memories that are attached to that don't get to the short-term memory, and then they don't get to long-term memory. So that was what was causing the memory problem. And that's why I didn't remember like 9 to 11 months. And that was type 2, which was genetic based. So ended up fixing it. Memory came back, emotions came back. I was like fucking 30 years old going through puberty. It felt like it was the fucking craziest thing. But it worked.
So you did what any 30-year-old going through puberty would think to do, and you're like, it's time to go fuck on camera.
No, so that was completely different. So this is at the same. So I was I got my degree. I reverse engineered a video game called Elder Scrolls Online.
Okay.
And
I'm aware.
Okay, and so me and my 4 friends, we fought everybody on the server, and we won. And so I ended up meeting with the developers. They had really bad programming, and they had too many variables that stacked on top of each other. And so I sent them an email to try and let them know, and they didn't. And so I was like, well, fuck it. I got a broken back. I got nothing else better to do. So I sat there and took advantage of it, and pretty much made my character invincible, and I could one-shot anybody. So I did that with my 4 friends, and we killed everybody. And then the forums went crazy. I met with the developers, got a job as a change management specialist.
Was this with Bethesda?
No. So we played this game because we called ourselves the Dark Brotherhood, following the lore. And all we were just gankers. We just like to laugh and troll people. It was fun.
Yeah.
And we had this game where, as if like we'd pick one person and we could only kill that person that night. So so out of like the 50 or 100 people that are on the battlefield, we had to stealth through everybody and only kill that one person. So some poor sap was like the victim and was just getting shat on that day. Like, it wasn't his day.
Why does Will Pounder keep fucking killing me? Mom, we need faster internet.
Well, one of the guys I did that to, he owned a change management firm. And so he re-rolled a new character. He's like, what are you doing to kill me? Because he says, I'm hiding in buildings. I'm like hiding with the Zerg. I'm hiding with the Zerg leader. Like, he's like, he says he's like doing everything. He's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, we fuck with everybody, So I was like, I'll tell you what, come play with us. I'll show you what we do. So I showed him what I did. And so he's like, you're actually kind of smart. And he said he liked the way I processed information. So he's like, he sent me a problem. He's like, we're working on this company and we're streamlining it. Well, I had a little bit of experience with this from the Marines, because I got my Lean Six Sigma belt of reduce waste, optimizing, and all that. So I looked over what he gave me, and I told him, was like, well, I looked at different processes and I said, well, if, with these processes, I would send these out to a company that could do them more efficiently and for less because they're not time gated. And I just pretty much wrote out like a brief thing of how it would streamline their operation. Well, he liked that. And so then he ended up hiring me as a change management specialist. And so I did that, finished my degree, and I didn't like living up in Idaho because it was fucking cold, like 9 months out of the year. And so I wanted to become a project manager and fell a little bit short. Went in as a quality assurance inspector, but they didn't have a QA program. This was at UCSD in San Diego.
Okay.
And so I went down there, used Excel, programmed, I created the entire QA program. Like I wrote an Excel program that populated an email to go to each individual supervisor of every floor, to the supervisor of the campus, to the building, to the dean. So I automated the whole fucking thing. Like,
Yeah.
Look, instead of spending like tens of thousands on a software thing, this motherfucker with YouTube, I figured it out. Put it that way. And then I found a bunch of other problems on the campus. Well, I wanted to be a project manager because that's what I got my degree in. So what I did is I took all these problems and I put my resume at the bottom of the stack. I went to the assistant director and I says, hey, these are some of the problems I found along the campus. And I had him look at it. So he looked through all of them, saw my resume at the bottom, created a position as a project manager, hired me. I became a new project manager. I interviewed, hired the guy that replaced me as the QA inspector. And then I started a new project, and that's how I got a promotion. And then, so while I was doing that, I got told I looked like Ryan Reynolds a lot. And so basically, when that happened, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go do a film, like a film festival, just like a check mark in the box, just to say I did it. And so I went to a film festival. I played the host of a Sexaholic Anonymous class for a political comedy. And then there was this action film. And so I was the lead guy in this big martial arts action flick. And so the director had this warehouse for like an hour. And he needed to film this whole fight scene. And I could hear him talking. He's like, we only have this place for an hour. And I don't know how we're going to get all these guys to fight. So I asked him, I was like, can I just choreograph this? Like, I'm pretty good at this stuff. And he's like, sure, let's go at it. So I went up and there's the 8 guys that I'm going to have to beat up. And I was like, all right, who has martial arts experience? Literally nobody raises their hands. And I was like, all right. I looked at the director. I looked at the clock. This is what's going to happen. You guys are all going to fight me for real. Pull your punches. You know when you're knocked out. Don't Hollywood it. If you Hollywood it, you're going to get hurt. Like, okay. So director's like, all right, let's give it a go. So we went at it. About like 30 seconds into the whole fight sequence, one of the guys Hollywoods a reaction. Couldn't predict it. He eats a knee to the face. I call cut. I tell everybody, look, this is very important. You're not going to hurt me. And if you don't want to get hurt, don't Hollywood it, because you will off-center your center of gravity, and then I can't predict where you're going to go. And so they're like, okay. So then we shot it, and we shot the whole thing straight through one take. Fought 8 guys right through. And afterwards, the director was like, what the fuck? So I started working in mainstream, and the studios in Southern California were shooting around my work schedule. Like they would stay open up late, or they would wait until I got done with work to open up to go film stuff. And I'm talking like green screens, like I was on bungee cords running on the fucking wall, like just doing all sorts of like ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
And so that I started making more money on the side acting than I was as a project manager. That's how busy it snowballed. Wow. And so at the time I was getting ready to do a fitness competition, because I was on that path. I was 255 pounds, lost 50 pounds. I just trimmed up, and I was like, I'm going to go do a fitness competition, just to mark the caps, like the before and the after. Yeah. And so I started doing that. And then I got asked to model underwear, and instead of paying like $500 or $600 to go walk on stage wearing underwear, these guys wanted to pay me $500 to wear underwear, take pictures. So I was like, we'll go with this route. So so I started underwear modeling.
Logical choice.
One's paying my bills, the other one is like a fucking paperweight that's just going to sit on my desk. I'm like, okay, that's great. We'll go this route. And so I did that. And then I got asked to audition for a military TV show. And I was cutting weight. I told him I would do it. I've always been a man of my word. And I was cutting weight. I was really angry. My computer wasn't working. I didn't know what a slate was. I had to Google what the fuck is a slate, and it's like, oh, it's your name. And I was like, all right. So I was over it. I didn't even want the part anymore, but I told him I was going to submit him something. So I'm like, all right, fuck this shit. I hit record. I said, my name's Will Motherfucking Pounder, and I'm going to read you this stupid ass script. And I read it fucking verbatim, monotone verbatim, like dry as I possibly could. The director and the casting director, they're watching it. They hear, my name's Will Motherfucking, and then they paused it and said, that's the guy. So now I ended up on a military TV show. I was like, well, I guess I'm on for the ride. Let's do it. So I get on, when I'm on the TV show, they had a guest adult film star that was on the show. Do you need to close the window? Hold on 1 second.
No worries. Well, Vamp, I had no idea that I was going to be getting this kind of a story from Will. It's actually really crazy cool to hear. Sorry, I'm talking to the people that aren't here just yet. So, but go ahead and continue.
Okay, so when I was on the TV show, they had this a guest adult film star that showed up, and she wanted to shoot a scene with me, and I said no. And she's like, well, let's make a bet of it. And I was like, look, my acting career is taking off. This will probably get in the way of my acting career. I was like, she wanted to make a bet of it. So I was like, all right, well, I'll tell you what, this production had to shoot around my schedule. In 2 days, I'm jumping on an airplane to go film a commercial at a resort. And then I'm flying back to San Diego to play Captain America at Comic-Con. If those gigs cancel, then I'm all yours. Put that out in the universe. The next day, my agent calls me and he says, I got some bad news. Those jobs canceled.
Oh.
He didn't say it that simple. He kind of caked that out over a freaking 15-minute conversation to say those two simple things, but you get the drift. So I was like, all right.
I'm pretty sure the agents get paid per word they speak. So that's how they choose to go about things.
Only when they're trying to fluff up your ego. So that's how I ended up shooting my first scene.
All right. And who was your first co-star?
Well, she's not in the industry no more, so I'm just gonna leave that one out.
No problem.
Out of respect.
Yeah, I totally understand. Now, you and I are both, we came into the sin industry a little late not late in life, but later than a lot of people. I work in the cannabis industry, a little different than yourself, but how did those conversations go with like family? Because I can't speak for you. I come from a Mormon household. I was raised Mormon, almost did the whole mission thing and everything. And, now I work in weed. And so I got some of my family that find it uncomfortable. Have you had to face any of that?
I don't really talk about family.
Okay.
I just kind of let them do their own thing. We don't talk about work.
I gotcha. There you go. And that's cool, man. That's a good way to go about it. So how long have you been doing adult films?
Been doing that for 3 years. I took 6 months off due to a knee surgery. And then I took 6 months off due to COVID. So collectively 2 years.
2 years. Okay. I tell everybody as I was leading up to this, I was like, yeah, I'm interviewing the Tom Hanks of the adult film industry. The guy's got 2 awards. Like how did that first feel of winning that? Because it kind of seems like there's a bunch of guys that they'll appear for about 6 months at a time and then they kind of disappear quickly. How did it feel to not only get that, 6 months in and then eventually get the Newcomer of the Year award? And how has that propelled you forward?
Well, one, it felt pretty good because my girl, who I'll show you right here. This is my beautiful girlfriend. I
There
don't
you
know if you
go.
can. Is that better? I'm getting the reflection of the computer.
There we go. There we go.
She won Girl Performer of the Year, and then right after she got the award, my name pops up on there for winning. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. So it was like power couple right there, you know. And so that felt really good. What that did for, hold on one sec. What that did for the career is any director that didn't know who I was now knew who I was. So that was the purpose of it.
Yeah.
Do you know why that most guys have a 6-month and they're out life in the industry?
I do not.
So this is actually be an entertaining story.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it. I'm excited.
And this is also very important because this is why I don't recruit people into the industry. So if you're looking to slide into my DMs to give you pointers on how to get into the industry, you are talking to the wrong person. I lost the fucking bet. That's how I got in. So how you're going to get in, I have no idea. But here's why I won't put my name on it. Because 99.9% of people will fail. Because you are a champ in your bedroom. But when you're on set and you are lit up like the 4th of July with 4 or 5 lights, the temperature of the room is 10 to 20 degrees hotter than it normally is. You have anywhere from 2 to 8 people, sometimes even more, that are watching you and judging you because everybody's paycheck depends on you being able to get your dick hard.
That's giving me anxiety, and I'm not even in the situation.
Well, hold on. That's not all of it.
It gets better.
So no one knows who you are because you're brand new. So the girl that you're working with, you're most likely going to be working with a cheap company because all the more established companies already have their go-to guys.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come in and you're going to be working for a cheap company, you may or may not get a girl that wants to be there. So now you got a girl that's probably not really even into you to begin with. That's just there to collect the paycheck. You've got the entire crew and the director that is judging you because their paychecks depend on whether you can get it hard or not. And the second you feel a little bit of self-doubt, it's a downward spiral. You can take all the Viagra, Cialis, whatever the fuck you want to take. It's not going to help.
Blue Chew, I'm waiting for you guys to reach out for sponsorship.
And so that's what happens. So when if you flop a scene and you fail a scene, the word gets out and then you don't get booked anymore.
So it's almost a one and done.
It very well can be.
Damn.
And so that's why it doesn't matter. Like we'll put it this way. I had a friend of mine, he got a producer of a TV show that wanted to find the next big male porn star. And this was years ago. And he said, "You're not going to do it." And he's like, "No, we're going to interview hundreds of people. Like we're going to find it." And he says, "You're not going to find anybody that's going to even get their dick hard." And literally, that's what he says. And it's so insistent on it. So he's like, "Well, if you pay me, I will run the show, but you got to pay me before I do it." And they're okay, no more. So they run the show. They interview hundreds of guys. These are guys that are saying that they're everywhere from like, "I can do this, I'm a fan," to I'm a alpha dominant. I'll go run. Like everybody, they were literally trying to find the next big male porn. Like that was their goal. And they had the set. They had a really hot girl because they didn't want they wanted to try and give you everything that you needed to succeed.
Yeah.
They had a hot girl who was like, "Let's do this. I want it." Like trying to be friendly. They interviewed, I think it was like over 300 people, and they had 3 guys almost get hard. Of those 3 guys, 2 of them got hard. The second he came in with the camera, went soft, and then the last guy popped with a limp dick. Like it wasn't hard, but he popped. And that was it. That was 300. So over 300 guys couldn't even get it up. Like they tried. They couldn't even get it up. And out of that, it was like 3 actually might have been able to do something, but the second it came into it, couldn't do it.
Yeah. Wow. I guess I've never really given it that much thought. I guess my question for you is how did you overcome that?
So the guy who won Best Male Newcomer the year before I did, he was top of his class in the Marine Corps. When I won, I was top of the class in the Marine Corps. And we have like this mentality of this is a job if you're trying to do it for your own personal pleasure, you're gonna fail. You might have one or two good ones, but you're gonna work with someone that you're not attracted to. You're gonna have an off day. You're gonna have something, and if you're approaching it where you're trying to work and it's based off of your personal pleasure, you're gonna tank, and you'll be out in 6 months or less.
That's fucking fascinating.
But we realize that we approach it that this is a job, this is the mission. So we do what you got to do for a mission. And I treat the same way I treat going to work is the same way as I treat going out to fight. You know, my diet's on point. I work out. I don't take any supplements. Like I don't take any blue pills. I don't take anything because when I first got in, I was told to do that, and that actually worked against me. I was 250 pounds, and all the blood halfway through the scene was ending up in my legs. So I was like, that ain't working. So I say it has to do with that, and then just the mentality.
Okay. All right. I do have some listener / viewer questions I want to go to.
All right.
I put it out on Instagram. I told everybody to be respectful because it's a weird situation for me to be in because I never thought I'd be in the position to be asking questions to somebody in your profession. It's different. Like I don't want to come off like the Howard Stern type, but I also, I'm a jokester at heart. I'm a stand-up comedian. So I told everybody keep it professional, but jokes are allowed.
Dude. When COVID's over, I want to do a stand-up comedy skit. I got so much material. You don't even know.
Well, I'll tell you what you told me. You can go in with a plan and it won't always go well.
Oh, I know. I'm friends with Jay Davis. He runs a comedy club in Hollywood.
Okay. Nice. All right. So first question up. I'm not going to say who they're from because I'm not sure they want people to know that they had these questions for you. So first question was, what were your career goals growing up? Because you sound like you had the photographic memory. Mm-hmm. You're fascinated by physics. Like just from listening to you, I assume something in the engineering realm.
Yeah. So I actually built a electromagnetic engine when I was 16.
Jesus Christ.
I was always into electricity, energy, and all that kind of stuff. I was a research subject with theta healing, a lot of metaphysics. There's a research group that was trying to study the effects of metaphysics of that world and the physics of this world, and a lot of physicists kind of play in that area. There's a lot of theoretical science between that. I kind of always wanted to go in that direction. What kind of deterred that route is where I grew up, there wasn't enough, put it this way, I slept through all of school and I had memorized the entire curriculum the first week. And so nothing was challenging enough to do it. Like in college, when it came down, like there's statistics, one of my best friends, he's one of the top marketers in the world. And we became best friends through statistics class because I slept the whole class and he sat right beside me. And he's like, aren't you worried about like not being able to do this? And I told him, I was like, the teacher's from like Iran or something. I can't understand a word she's saying with that accent. And he's like, so you're just going to fail the class? I was like, no, I just read the book and it's easy. So I taught him statistics while we're in class. And that's how we ended up becoming friends. But I just wasn't challenged enough to go in that direction. So I guess I would say I didn't have the proper guidance to use what I had then to go in that route. Instead, I used what I knew to actually figure out how to survive.
Yeah.
And then I studied where I was at. I figured out it was an economic black hole because if you weren't Mormon, if you weren't a business owner, or you didn't do construction, you're kind of fucked. You're kind of there's no growth out there. There wasn't anything. So I knew I had to leave. And then the only person I knew that had left had joined the Marine Corps. And I was like, I knew I had to leave. So when I left, I scored really, really high on the ASVAB. Mm-hmm. So I could pick any career that I wanted. So I picked avionics, and I was thinking that was going to take me into the electrical engineer route, kind of following that because that's the path I went. But they threw me into working on circuit cards and infrareds. So I went to school for a year for that. And that was a joke. Like, funny story about that. First time ever on pain meds. My chit said sick in quarters, but I was too fucking high to read my chit. So I showed up to class anyways. And in that 1 week, I finished 3.5 months worth of the curriculum and graduated early. But I have no memory of it. It was the best. But so like I thought that was taking me in that direction. And then when it came time to the MOS where they narrow down which job you get, I kind of got a job that a monkey could do, like literally take equipment, plug it in, computer tells you what's wrong, find what's wrong, take it out, replace it, test it, send it out. Like it was dumb. So I didn't get to use any of that. And then so when I was in the shop, I was in my actual marine shop for like 6 months. I was like, fuck this shit, because all I did was lift weights. And before I got into weights, I read everything as far like how the body builds muscle, like what is a hypertrophic state, how do you maximize results, how to like I read everything I possibly could before I went into it, because I put, that's just how my brain works. I went from like 205 to 250 in about a little over a year. Like I put on a lot of muscle very, very quickly, and I didn't take anything. And so it just never ended up going in that direction, unfortunately.
Well, then I got a follow up. What are your career goals now?
So right now, I just hired a full-time assistant, and I'm working for the studios 1 to 2 times a day, literally almost every day.
Okay.
And so I'm starting to make more things on my own, because as that starts making more profit, I'm going to limit my studio time by half and then film my own stuff on the other half. But I do have a surprise curveball coming in this year, because I got a lead role in a Hulu TV show. So
no shit.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But there's crazy shit happens all the time. My old agent, who never booked me a job, by the way, he told me, he's like, "Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. You don't need me," and because at the time I was booking myself out. It was like just a referral basis. I could fight.
Yeah.
I looked like Ryan Reynolds, and it was just the thing. And so I did really, really well doing this. So he said, "You don't need me," and so we just became friends. And so I told him about the mental health. I spent a whole year helping people with mental illness, and it was a referral basis, and learned so many cool things about the brain through that process. So I told him about that. 2 years ago, I told him, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go walk the red carpet. And he gives me that good old boy speech. He's like, "You can do anything you put your mind to." And I was like, "Yep." Well, later that year, I won some awards and walked the red carpet. And so he tells all of his actors, he's like, "You just got to have that go-getter mindset." Like this guy Will's like, he tells me he's gonna do something. There's no doubt in my mind he's gonna go out there and do that. And I'm just, all right. Well, over what he sells other people's scripts to the studios, and over COVID, he wrote his own script. But he wrote the lead character of the script as me being the lead character, and didn't tell me until he sold it. So he sold it, and I get this like phone call, and we're talking for like 3.5 hours. And I'm like, okay, like where's this going? He's like, "So by the way, if you got any time this year, and you want to work on a Hulu TV show, you're kind of the lead character. Your contract's actually written into it." So I was like,
so you're going to be going at it on both ends, the adult way and mainstream. That doesn't happen a whole lot. I think that of the women, the people that have done it the best are like Sasha Grey. And I didn't do enough research leading up to this, so that's the only number that's coming to my head. But that's not bad company to keep. She's killing it right now. I just saw her on another podcast, and she's doing the damn thing. So your goal is are you looking to eventually kind of break into your own type of production studio, or are you just kind of looking to keep it just to you, or how's that work?
I'm gonna shoot my own stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna head in that route, because I want to be able to travel the world, and I can't do that if I'm stuck on the studio's schedules.
Yeah. You never leave in the valley at that point.
I've always had that mindset of you come up with a goal of what you want on how you want to live, and then work backwards from that goal and figure out, well, how do I get there? So it's like,
Yeah.
if the goal is like, I want to make money while I'm on vacation, living my life, I was like, okay, well, what are some other places? How do other people do that? So then you look up them, and then you're like, all right, well, I can do this. Well, what's the precursor to that? Okay, well, what happened before that? And then you work yourself backwards, and you kind of just established your own roadmap on how to get there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So would it be presumptuous to say that you are going to be the first person to get an AVN, an Emmy, and an Oscar?
I don't know. I'm not. I don't try. I don't. My goal is not to go for awards. My goal is just to do a good job.
Good jobs usually get recognized. I mean, beyond the politics of awards, it can sometimes be difficult. But do you plan on keeping it adult themed, or do you want to kind of broaden the horizon a little bit, but keep your foot in it if you're enjoying it at least?
Depends on where the wind blows.
Yeah.
Every time I've come up with like a distinct plan. I thought I was going to be a professional martial artist. Like, I thought that was going to be the route,
Yeah. Like,
and then it detoured, and then I thought I was going this route, and then it's like, oh nope, universe says, bam, you're a porn star. It's like, okay, well, how long am I doing this? I know it's not going to be forever, and then like, boom, like mainstream hit. Maybe I'm going to go off this way. I don't know.
It's like Mike Tyson. He said everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and your punches in the face have been different than others.
Yeah, you use the card that you dealt with, use the hand that you dealt with, and then you roll with the punches. You try to make the best out of the situation.
As Paul Rudd says in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, when life gives you lemons, just say fuck the lemons and bail. Another deep question. What brings you joy?
Ooh. I like helping people.
Helping people.
So I think that does it. Because
what's been the greatest thing reward wise for you? What's the best thing that you've been able to do to help others? Was it the helping people with mental illness? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I know what it was like to feel like you're not in control over your own life. Like literally, like I became 100% different person after it was fixed versus before. Even my friends that stayed in touch through that, my voice changed, the foods I like changed, my personality changed. A lot of things changed. And so I know personally what it was like struggling, just trying to figure out what the fucking reality is when your brain doesn't work, because you're not yourself when your brain doesn't work. And then when I started helping other people go through that were in the mix, like the only way I was able to bridge that was to talk to them about my experiences. And then they're like, wait, I was like that. Like, I can relate to that. And I was like, really? Well, how about this is what I did to fix it. Why don't you give it a shot? And so then I took, well, here, take these, take the Q96 from Q Sciences. They changed the name, I think last year to a new formula, which is even better.
Okay.
And then I told them to take the triple the dosage of a high quality fish oil, cut out sugar and caffeine for 3 months, and see how it works. And there was one of the people that I helped. He was a Navy pilot, and he got diagnosed with bipolar, had an episode, and was kicked out of the Navy for it. And they had him on 2 different types of synthetics, including lithium. And I told him, he asked me, he's like, should I quit taking my meds or should I take them? He's like, I'm scared not to, I don't want to go back to that. And I told him, I was like, look, I'm no psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor, but what I can tell you is all this stuff is just food. And if you have a problem taking food, then there's some bigger issues that got to deal with. And I'm not your person for that. And I said, but I told him, I was like, if you do this, you will know if you need to take those or not. And so he took them 3 days afterwards. And this has happened so many times, almost every single person that was on meds, it was 3 days after taking them, they felt like the synthetics were fucking with their head. They quit taking them, made 100% recovery, and I've not a single person relapsed.
I'm really glad that you're talking about this, because this is something I've never personally talked about on my show or any of my previous shows, but I've dealt with serious depression and things like that going way back into my life. And it likes to creep itself back up, and not a lot of people, at least not the names or the heads that you see talking on the TV, ever want to talk about the importance of what you're putting into your body on a daily basis. Like I was at a point this was 3 years ago that I knew that I wanted to end my life, but I knew that that was wrong. And I knew that what I was doing to myself with the you know, quote unquote food that I was putting in my body at that time. Yeah, because when you're eating nothing but fast food, it's not really food. It's not fuel. It really is killing you in the worst ways possible. It is putting you into those bad mind spaces. It is, you know, actively making you fatter. I mean, I'm coming from a point of, I got to my highest weight in 20 at the beginning of 2020. I was 2 pounds shy of 400 pounds. And, you know, here we are in 2021. I'm not losing it like crazy, but I'm down to what was I down to last time I checked? It was 353. And so, you know, just changing what you're putting into your body and how you're, you know, the relationship you have with food, it not only does it affect like your physical appearance, but it really does have probably a 10 to 20x effect on your brain. And to have somebody like openly talk about that, thank you. I didn't think we were going to go down that route, but that's really cool that you were able to do that. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Do you want to know the science of the electric body on how that actually comes into play, eating fast foods and all that stuff?
Fucking absolutely.
All right, cool. So let me get adjusted here. So every cell in your body has something in it. It has a component in it that behaves like a capacitor, making every cell in your body essentially like a little battery. And then you have what's called battery packs in your body, which kind of wrap around, and you have different ones, and some of them contain different organs and so on and so forth. Now, when we're talking about the energetic body, if you're eating trashy foods that are high in preservatives and all that kind of stuff, they lower the voltage of your body. Think about it like a current. When you're the way that the current flows, you actually have like your energetic field is actually a vortex, and then you also got what's called a morphic field that's on the outside of that. So there's like 2 different layers on those, and both of those are already areas of science right now. So it's not like a fictitious thing that it used to be. It's like, no, this is actually confirmed. There's scientific proof and evidence and research going on in these fields. So what happens is when you've got your voltage of your body is down really, really low because you have a very sedentary lifestyle and really trashy foods, the voltage is low. Now, emotions, they have an electromagnetic energy to them, and they can get stuck in your body, and they can get stuck in your morphic field. And when they get stuck in your body, they can actually cause the voltage to dip. Well, what happens is if you have a battery pack where that voltage is low, and then that emotion comes in and it dips too low, the polarity is going to flip flop. Well, when that polarity flip flops, that battery pack can no longer has the juice to cause a reaction to create a new cell. So that's where a lot of chronic illnesses come from. So if you want to rebuild, like, it makes sense because like your cells, every 7 years, every cell in your body has been replaced, right? Different organs, different cells, different things take a lot, different amounts of time to replace. But you have to have all of the components to create a healthy cell in order to create a healthy cell. But you also have to have the power or the labor to actually cause that reaction, which is that's the energetic power, or like that's the battery pack. So if that battery pack is fucked up, you're gonna have a hard time on the biological side of the house. Now, a lot of pharmaceuticals and a lot of synthetics also fuck with the voltage as well. So that's the correlation to that. So a lot of preservatives, a lot of stuff is just really trash. All like the pesticides, all that kind of shit, it's really fucking bad for it. And so that's another thing to look out for.
Man, dropping knowledge. So what do you have planned for your future in the aspect to be able to help people? Do you have any plans for like a foundation, any kind of like charity work? Like what it sounds like this sounds like, and I've only known you for, what are we at now? An hour and 20 minutes. But you do have that feeling inside you that you have knowledge, you have lived experience that you want to get out there. What's the plan behind that?
Truthfully, I haven't looked into how to do any of that. I've just been doing it on my own will, like just on a word by mouth. I would love to have a charity foundation because I know a lot of people who want to help people with mental illness and and actually donate to a fucking cause that is actually shown to work, not just shoving fucking synthetics down people's throats and turn them into fucking zombies. Is that literally that's what happens? It brings the highs down, raises the lows, and now you're left with fucking zombie mode.
Yep.
So if you know of anybody that knows how to run foundations and do all that, I'm kind of at my bandwidth as far as like between work and my current projects, and that's just the side thing that I do to help people. But if you got someone that you know that wants to partner up for that, hell yeah.
You know, I might actually have a couple of people that I'll keep you in mind. But we'll go ahead and move on from that. Again, thanks for sharing all of that. Now we got a question coming from another guy. What was your longest day on set like? Like, did you ever hit a moment where you looked down at your watch and you went, "Damn, I've been at this for a while today"?
Oh yeah.
I don't want you to like call out any names or anything like that that could cause problems, but like how was that? Was that like, were you working like a 20-hour day? What was going on there?
This one was about an 18-hour day. About an 18-hour day. It was a VR scene. Hold on one second. Hey, enough. The mailman dropped mail in. My dog's like, "Who's that?"
He's like, "It's a motherfucker. He comes by every day. I know he wants some."
So I was making a virtual reality scene, and there were 6 girls. They have to do the pictures. They have to do a 2D camera so that they can use that as the thumbnails for advertisements. And then we got to film the VR setup. So we had to do every girl, every combination of girls, and all of the girls, both pictures, 2D, and 3D. And it was literally, I would say my eggplant was being used for 12 hours straight. And I managed to break away like twice to get a bite out of a chocolate bar before being called right back to go right into it.
Man, that's crazy. That actually brings me to one of my own questions. Is VR the future of porn?
Ooh, so
let me rephrase that question, because the porn industry has really been a trailblazer in all aspects of technology and consumer products. The reason that we use Blu-ray is because porn adopted it instead of HD DVD. The reason that we have Amazon, where we buy things on the internet, is all because of a couple of guys who wanted to figure out how to figure the payment processing and brought that out. Is porn, so I'm actually reworking the question altogether, is porn going to be what pushes VR to the next level?
That's a very interesting question, because I've been following this as well, because I studied the psychology of how VR plays into aspects of the brain, which when that happens, you kind of get a better understanding of the quality of a VR product. So that's probably like the main reason why I'm the number one guy in VR in porn. So I guess first let's cover why VR is the way that it is and what it does to the brain, and then it'll make sense, and you can better guess the same answer with the same amount of information that I have. So the way that the brain processes anything is your brain is the computer that uses your 5 senses to put together what it thinks reality is, and that's it. So what happens is if you have VR and you move your head around and it moves around, you have both movement and visuals of your brain is taking in something new. So for a moment, your brain is processing that as a new reality. Well, now what happens is if the girl says, "Do you want to grab my tits?" And when she says that, and then I go and I go up and I grab her tits, well, if the person that is watching that does the same thing, now you got motor function that has convinced the brain that the arms inside that inside the VR is real. So they did a study where they had the person put his arms underneath the desk and he saw virtual arms, and the body responded to every stimulus to the virtual rearm, and the physical body reacted as if what was happening to the virtual rearm was real. So the brain, instead of grabbing the information from the real actual arm that is attached to the body, it started pulling in the data
It's pulling in the
from
data that it
what it
was
was seeing
seeing.
the virtual arm.
Okay, fascinating.
Kind of like hacking the brain.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, that's why virtual porn does so well. But now you also have the technology trend. So I think Apple said they're coming out with a VR headset, but then also heard that they might have backpedaled that. So as it goes, as technology goes, if more people start using those headsets, then totally, I could totally see that shifting with all the gaming and all that kind of happening. I would see it's inevitable to go that direction in porn.
Yeah.
But you also got to keep in mind that if everything's going in that direction and VR technology is taking off, that new technology literally might just be VR. It might end up replacing TVs.
Yeah.
Because say you and I, we wanted to go to the movie theater together, but COVID's also kind of accelerated a lot of technology. But say we just put on a headset and now we're in our fucking lazy boys. I look to my left and there you are in your lazy boy, and we're watching the movie that's in the theater through the VR headset. So it gives all the look and feel that we're actually in the theater. Like if technology heads in that direction, I could totally see porn being the future in it.
Do to go with that theoretical future that does become the norm. Does that scare you a little bit that physically doing things kind of becomes a novelty at that point?
Um, no, it doesn't scare me because now you're kind of talking about the theories of inevitabilities, anyways. Are you familiar with the theory?
No, I'm not.
So the theory of inevitability is basically, for example, like when the radio was invented. Um, the first person that invented the radio got the credit for it, but what a lot of people don't know is that there were other people in different parts of the world that had also invented the radio at the same time, but just a little bit later. Same thing with all the different technologies from the TV to everything up. So it's a theory of inevitabilities that it's inevitably going to be created. It's just a matter of time and opportunity.
Mhm.
So it's not like without if that one person, if we go back in history and that person didn't create the TV, well, it's
Somebody else did.
probably inevitable it was going to happen anyway. So that's the theory of inevitability. So if
Yeah.
we're talking about technology that's moving along with the theory of inevitabilities, AI is going to increase, virtual reality is going to increase. I'm a big believer in Elon's Musk integration process because Elon has a very valid point. At the rate at which technology is going, there is the higher probability that AI and technology is going to supersede the need of humans.
Mhm.
It makes sense. And so in order to counteract that, there's going to be an integration part that's going to happen in between that. So that's why I think Elon Musk is on the right track as far as bridging the gap and increasing the bandwidth. Because our current bandwidth, like with technologies, are our thumbs of searching on the internet.
Yeah.
And if that, honestly, that would the theory of inevitabilities when it comes to technology on that would solve so many problems. Because if everyone was like linked up on an interface, you would know everybody's actual intentions, and there wouldn't be a miscommunication due to lack of communication.
According to Joe Rogan, that's what we're headed for. Joe Rogan
Yeah.
has been speaking that out for probably the last 3 years. I think he's been really hammering on that to where we're going to get beyond this point of cancel culture based off of misinterpretations of what people have said. And it's, people are going to know your intent by what you believe, not by the words that you're saying, which is it's a comforting thought and a terrifying thought at the same time. All right, we'll move on to the next question. Do you have a favorite pair of porn underwear?
Ooh, I don't even wear underwear.
Well, hey, Commando's a choice, so in turn, Commando is underwear. So
I only wear underwear when I work out, and that's just because too much bouncing
too much
around.
moving, yeah.
I kind of don't feel great. But other than that, no, I don't. I find them too constricting. Like you gotta let them breathe.
I feel you. I feel you. Went over that. And we'll go ahead and go into, I meant to have like 20 questions for rapid fire to wrap everything up, but I got 6 written down. So we're going to do
That
6
works.
rapid fire questions. And
All
we're going
right.
to go ahead and start with describe yourself in 3 words. First 3 words that come to mind.
Fun, charismatic, and intelligent.
Morning or night person?
Ooh, depends. Depends on the time.
All right, we'll take it. We'll take it.
It varies. Just depends.
What's the first thing you do in the morning?
Well, that also kind of depends. Sometimes it's go get COVID tested, but usually when I wake up, it's I kind of usually kind of almost do like a little meditation and prepare for like I don't want to bring the negativity of the previous day into the current day, so I just kind of do like a little meditation thing. I'm like, all right, let's go about the day, and then
We're gonna follow back on that in just a second. Favorite movie?
Ooh, I mean, I'm a big fan of like your Braveheart, your Gladiator, the Patriot.
Dude, I
like,
had you picked
I love
to
that
say
shit.
Gladiator. I had you picked. I mean, Gladiator is my personal favorite movie, so maybe that's why I thought you were going to pick it. But
yeah. I think I've seen it probably like 20, 30 times at least.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those movies that it honestly gets better every time I watch it. Every single time. First concert you remember?
Ooh, Bowling for Soup, because they were the only band that actually came to my town.
Bowling for Soup, man. The greatest comedic rock band of all time. I'll say that.
But they're the only ones that came to my town in the middle of BFE. So I was like, my first concert.
There you go. Do you believe in aliens?
Ooh, I believe. See, that's interesting because it depends on the definition of the aliens. But
do you believe that there are beings of intelligence not on or from this planet?
Yes. And also in metaphysics, space and time is not all the same thing. So I don't know if that plays into it as well, because there's so many different accounts of beings of consciousness. Like I don't know, like DMT, everybody experiences meeting the same entities. Are those beings of consciousness? So is that on the same plane? Would we consider them aliens, or would they? You know what I'm saying?
I think they technically. I think that for the lay person, at least, I think that still constitutes as an alien.
Then 100%, I totally believe that. When you have like thousands, tens of thousands, or millions of people that try DMT and they all experience encountering the same type of deities and people, and with some of them without even doing research on it, how is that?
There's something. There's something to that for sure. And the last one, do you believe in ghosts?
Yes. But so what I think ghosts are, so a little bit of precursor. I was a research subject in theta healing. I went around, I used to teach energy workers how and why and what they do and why it works, and then why it doesn't work on people. Because there's a lot to do with physics and in metaphysics. There's like 2 that cross the line. So when you have emotions have electromagnetic frequency, and those get stuck in a person's morphic field. And this is an actual official area of science as of 2 years ago. And what they discovered is everyone's morphic field is a 6 feet double layer membrane vortex around them. And it's like rings on a tree. So if you are 30 years old, you went through something emotionally traumatic when you're 15, they hypothesized that there would be an undertone or overtone 3 feet out from your body. And they used the tuning fork, because a tuning fork within a specific hertz range has electromagnetic properties which actually affect the undertones and overtones. So when they did that, turns out 3 feet out of someone that was emotionally traumatized at that age, it ended up panning out like on the science of it. So we know that emotional energy can be stored in a morphic field. So now we got to define what ghosts are, because you got a soul which is separate from that energy. But this the electromagnetic energy that gets stuck in the field is kind of like a memory. It's literally what it is when you are actually walking, when you're guiding somebody through like raising their inner child, or trying to work through someone who's gone through PTSD. PTSD is they experience something so traumatic that the brain had to protect itself. And so it released a whole bunch of emotional energy, and that stuff either gets stuck in the body, and it can also get stuck in the morphic field. And that's where that area of healing and science is actually kind of guided into there. There's different ways to cook the chicken as far as like working through PTSD. Most of it, the gist of it is bringing those events, reliving those events, but keeping a conscious mind through those and understanding them and then letting them process themselves out. People have done it. There's a 70% success rate with 3 tries of MDMA of curing PTSD, of guiding somebody through that. The whole purpose of that is literally just reliving that experience and then guiding through it. So that information is already held there. So if we're trying to define what ghosts are, I don't believe ghosts are actually souls of people that are stuck there. That doesn't make any sense. But what does make sense is that they're like an emotional body or emotional something is stuck in the field that is still in there. Because every ghost story you hear is they went through something traumatic, and that's why they're there reliving it. I think the soul's completely gone back to its next stage of existence, but that energetic energy or residue of that memory could still very well be stuck in the plane.
Very, very deep, sir. And I'm going to get even deeper. What is that next plane of existence to you? What do you think it is?
Okay, so this is interesting. So have you ever done DMT before?
I have not. I want to. It's on my list. It's going to happen. It just has not happened yet.
So I did DMT a year ago, and so I've been doing energy work. I found out I had an affinity for it when I was 8 years old. Ended up in an institute when I was a Marine, when I was a 250-pound Marine. Don't ask, that's such a crazy story. And so I kind of went through all this process, and what I realized is that when I did DMT, it felt 100% identical to doing energy work for between 10 and 20 minutes.
Really?
So when I'm in an energetic state, when I'm doing that, or I'm doing like the energetic exercise, because I do energetic, just like I would lift weights to strengthen my body, I would do energetic exercises to strengthen the muscles. And I could feel like the pineal gland, I could feel things in my brain actually growing and getting stronger, and I could feel different fields.
What's an example of like one of these energetic exercises?
So what I'll do for a lot of people is I walk them through a visual. So if someone ever feels like they're imbalanced, or like because I don't like getting all like super hippie spiritual into it, because I like to take more of the scientific approach to things, because I think a lot of things get misconstrued, believing that it's all spiritualism. But because I think there's
well, it's because
does that make sense?
You have a very logic-based brain, and so your basis is that this works off of this feeling of logic, or this logic. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Everything I've done in the energetic world, I have trained somebody else to do it with me, to compare notes, to see if the experiences match, or if they don't match, or if they match. Because I wanted to get rid of the variable of psychoschematic. Like I didn't want something to happen and have it happen, and not have it happen, like not have someone else experience it, because then that could be the possibility. So I just wanted to get rid of those variables. So when it talks to, so I'd say like doing an energetic state for that long felt very much like doing DMT, like pretty much 100%, from seeing the different shapes to kind of blasting off and kind of seeing reality for what it is. And when I go into that state, I see like the visual representation was, there's all these different bubbles, like they were on a grid, almost like the dots game, but there were these different bubbles. And I would say like because like you're trying to convert information, that because when you receive information in that world, it's almost like instantaneous, but it doesn't translate to words really well. So there's like a miscommunication of like trying to describe what the experience was to what it really was. So I'll try to explain it as best I can. So the visuals is there's all these different bubbles, and the bubbles represented different realities. I don't know if they were parallel universes or they were just different programs. Because right now in physics, all of our understanding is that we live in a 3D fractional grid. Like, that makes the most sense when it comes to physics, when you start throwing in everything on top of that. So does that mean that there's parallel universes, or does that mean this is just a simulation, and then all those other bubbles are other simulations? You know, not entirely sure. I don't know enough about that. You know, that's so far outside my scope of reality. I don't know, but I don't want to answer that. But so I would say that when our spirit would move on, because I know like when there's certain energetic tests you can do with things, like the energy that flows around your body. It's programmable based off of intention, and intention is the language that is used in there. So words don't mean anything. So when I go and I'm training like an energy healer or a group of energy healers, and they're using these words or they're trying to recite incantations, to me, what that says is you don't know how this works.
Mhm.
What you're doing is you're repeating what somebody else had told you and expecting this result. Now, yes, what you're doing is you're programming an attention, but different words mean different things to different people. So that's why I like to understand. Uh, when I teach them, it's important to understand how the science works behind it, and then you can just get rid of all the all the hippity seance bullshit. Like I think it's a fucking joke. So for example, do you know there's this I think it was a Japanese scientist. He put words labeled on the same. He used the same water from the same source, and he would put words on water. He would play music to water. He would set water on top of pictures, and then he'd flash freeze them and look at the structure of the water. Did you ever hear
Oh
about
yeah, I did hear about that one. Yeah.
Okay, so what it did is things that came from like love and beauty, anything like that, they were very symmetrical and they looked very pleasant to look at. Things that were chaos, the chaos was jagged all over the place.
Mhm.
The full had literally no molecular structure look to it at all. And so the reason what we take from that is that our intention kind of helps shape the molecular structure of how that formed on there. And that's kind of like the takeaway from that. Same thing with the music. The rock music, like the hardcore music, showed no distortion, whereas Mozart showed very articulate and very complex looking pictures on it. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So you can do the same thing. Like you can do this. I can do this. Pretty much anybody that has an actual voltage in their body can do this. And you can go to put your hand up next to a glass of water. So that's inside your electromagnetic field. So this is why you need a voltage. That field, so everything within that programmable distance of your field is programmed off of intention. You put your hand up next to that glass of water, and you can think of like a high frequency. So think of a high vibration, and then really focus on channeling that into the water. Then take a sip of that water and remember the aftertaste. Then repeat the exact same experiment, but this time imagine that the water is causing a desync. Like it's tap water, it's disgusting, it's not good for the body. And then do that one, and then take a sip and remember the aftertaste. The third one, think of your own body's frequency and channel that into the water, and then drink that. And then don't do that with just yourself. Test that with other people and see how that comes into play. Because what's happened when I've done this, and I've done this experiment thousands, tens of thousands of times. Like I literally went around and would do this to everyone. Because when I would go to teach, because the only time I'd ever go to do energy work on someone anymore was when an energy healer couldn't work on the person. And the reason why they couldn't work on them was because what happened is they had a strong voltage in their body, but they had a belief system that was rewriting the programs as was entering their body. And so you can either you can overpower their frequency, but the problem is by overpowering it, it only works when the power source is there. So when you leave the field, it reverts back. Number two, you got to cause their subconscious to realize that that's not there. You got to basically make their brain realize that that's not the only form of input in what they think reality is. So the water is one. Another one is like you can feel people's fields. And it used to be like, oh, you're fucking crazy for that. I say, hey, well, guess what? The scientific community finally put it out there that some people can feel other people's electromagnetic fields without touching them. So you can try this too. If you have a field, you can go like this and you can feel, some people feel heat, some people feel energy. So what I would next encourage you to do is put your finger into it. Now, when you put your finger there, move it in a circle and see if you can feel that as it moving around your palm. And then what I want you to do is focus on it and imagine that the energy that's coming out of your finger is channeling itself into a point, and see if you can't poke yourself. And so it feels like it's almost like burrowing into the center of your hand. Now, the next thing I want you to do is then envision that the energy, instead of it being a point, actually disperses and goes across your whole hand. So without moving it. And so do that on yourself, but then also try that with somebody else so that you know that this isn't psychosomatic. And then you'll start realizing that there's more to the power of your thoughts and how it affects with this plane of reality. So when it comes to doing energy, if you're, as far as like trying to do that, like saying it takes a certain amount of effort, energetic effort to do that. Well, if you use the soul from that, it's almost an instantaneous effort. So there's a distinct difference in from doing that. And I haven't been able to test that with someone else using their soul. So that was from my own personal experience from that. So I don't know if that's psychosomatic or not. I don't have enough data to really pull that together if that was psychosomatic or if it was, or if somebody else can do that.
Yeah.
But that was my personal experience from that. So I think sorry, we kind of really going way off of it.
Hey, that's what this is all about. It's all good, brother. It is all good, man. No, like I love hearing about things that I don't know about, and I don't know about that. So I'm never gonna tell anybody to stop. But that's this is, I mean, damn, we're coming up on 2 hours here. This has been really fun, man. This has been a lot of fun. This is probably one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. And I've talked to some interesting motherfuckers. So take that as a compliment.
All right. Yeah.
But his name is Will Pounder. He is on Instagram as I Will Pounder. Go ahead and plug anything else that you have out there.
Instagram's I Will Pounder. Not safe for work material is on Twitter, The Will Pounder. I do have an OnlyFans called The Pounder. Just be very careful if you go in there. It's just a lot of me. It's mostly like BTS stuff on there, but yeah.
Well, there you go. And I want to talk to you again when the Hulu show is coming up. I want to like find out about that and whatnot. So
I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun.
I appreciate the hell out of you for taking the time to talk with me and for other people to listen. And that's it, folks.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, anytime.